Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd, habati fillah. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said in a very beautiful ibarah, and it's also representative of his way, of his sunnah, with the jawami' al-kalam, meaning very precise and profound speech with immense meaning. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, which I'm sure we're all aware or mostly aware of, in which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to a desert Arab, when asked about, how to get to paradise, what is the way for success? Because the desert Arabs, as was the case in the past, up until now, are generally simplistic people. And in fact, this doesn't just go with the Arabs. When you think about it, that indigenous peoples or people with traditional societies and traditional ways, the people usually who live outside of the cities and outside of the main towns and in the countryside tend to be very simplistic and direct, and often not necessarily formally educated, but rather they, depending on who they are, whether they be farmers and people who actually have, from practice, deal with the sciences from a practical point of view, or they could be just the simple people who are ignorant, that generally they're simplistic people. And they're generally fairly direct. And you'll find this all over Africa, all over Asia, in that the common folk, especially outside of the cities, tend to have some of these traits. So this Bedouin asked the Prophet ﷺ, because they just wanted to know, what can I do to get to paradise? They wanted to cut it short, and sometimes it is said that some of them were even, without manners. They had their own type of manners, and they were abrasive, and they tend to be abrasive at times, even abrasive towards the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this desert Arab. He just said, Muhammad, I don't want to hear, anything extensive. I want something simple, and I want to go to paradise. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Qul amantu billah thumma istaqam." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, say that I believe in Allah, and then walk straight, meaning be upright, on istiqamah. So this simple statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has immense value for us, as with all the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what is immensely beneficial and important for us to observe in this hadith, it shows us that simplicity, by just practicing the basics of Islam and avoiding the muharramat, is really where our success lies. What's difficult for us is actually doing what is required of us. That most of us, I don't say many, I say most of us, follow our desires in one form or another. So it becomes difficult for us to let go those haram because of our desires, because we enjoy some haram. We may know it's haram. More often than not, we know everything we're doing is not necessarily correct. Then there are many of us who are very ignorant of the religion, and they've become so far that they can't tell even some of the basic halal and haram. They become that far. And you will find many Muslims that are born Muslim that know nothing, don't even know how to pray properly. And yes, from the Arabs who cannot recite Al-Fatiha properly and otherwise. So don't think this is something just unique to new Muslims. But we have a plethora of examples, and I've seen in my life countless times, people from the Emirates, people from Saudi, they couldn't even pray properly. They couldn't even do the iqamah. They don't know the iqamah because when your heart becomes so hard and you become so far away from istiqamah, at least they wanted to pray. That was a good thing. And some of them I had to coax to pray. But you see that it's not related to a bloodline, but that istiqamah is something real. And that has to do with that being upright. Ahabati fillah, exercising taqwa Azza wa Jal is not an easy thing. And as the Salaf used to say, that taqwa is doing the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and avoiding his prohibitions. And so that seems simplistic enough for us. Do the halal, stay away from the haram. But when we actually try to implement that in our lives, when we're challenged by the various ways we're challenged, especially when we're in a non-Muslim environment, you're challenged more. And this provides a good case for the hijrah, for those who wish to or who are able to make hijrah. But don't think it stops there, because those challenges, they don't cease. But often you're challenged more in other ways when you're in a non-Muslim environment, because the norms are un-Islamic. A lot of times some of the norms are the exact opposite of what Islam calls you to. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal for assistance, for ikhlas with thabat al-sunnah, and that thabat al-sunnah is that istiqamah. It is walking straight by practicing the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.